Hello and welcome to DH Conversations. Today we have with us Dr. Salman Khurshid, with whom we'll speak about his book India's Tryst with the World. He has edited the book with Salil Shetty. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
The first question that I wanted to ask you is that in the book, which carries one of the last pieces by former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, he says that one of India's biggest appeals with the West is India's pluralism and the fact that India is seen as a liberal democracy, and we had more appeal in the West over China, which is known for its authoritarianism. Do you think, and he had also made a case for why India should not veer from that stance. Do you feel that there is a bit of a change in that principle that we had in foreign policy?
Well, it's a matter of the observer judging whether the ground in India has shifted. Those of us who are in public life in India are conscious that the ground rules are changing. Political circumstances, political results of political elections, etc., have moved the goalposts considerably. There is no clear stated policy statement that reneges on everything that we've stood for many decades. But in drips and drabs, you see it in various people saying on various occasions something. And if you put that all together, then clearly there is an alternative view to the view that we have grown up on. And that alternative view, if I may say so, would not be that attractive or should not be that attractive to a liberal world. But then the world itself is in a flux. Things that we see happening in North America or in Europe, parts of Europe, elsewhere in the world. So to what extent will that what happens in India be drag on what we saw as the liberal world of yesteryears is the big question. But the important point, of course, is that whatever is happening in the world and however the world perceives us today, in distinction to what the world saw us as yesterday, I think it's critical that we should be clear about what we want to see across the globe and what we want to present ourselves for purposes of what is happening across the globe. And I think there are serious problems there.
So moving closer home in the neighborhood, in the BBI network, in Bangladesh, when it comes to Bangladesh, Bhutan and Nepal, I think we've had traditionally very strong relations with these countries when the Congress was in power. But currently we seem to be facing a lot of roadblocks with them. And there have been massive changes in both Bangladesh and Nepal. So where do you think, we sort of, that where was that flip, you think? Where do you think was that change where we moved from being such good neighbors to being so adversarial?
Well, I think there is a principled issue. The principal issue is that our friendship and our relationship with our neighbors cannot be based on mathematical reciprocity. I mean, that has to be very clear. They are much smaller than us. They have limited capacity, limited markets, etc., etc. If we want to carry them with us, as we should, and the first important step for us, if we want a higher profile in the world, is to ensure that you have a better profile in your own region. And therefore, there is something that we need to do for them. We must. We shouldn't be niggardly about, we've already given you enough and therefore we won't give you anything more. That's one important thing. The other problem, I believe, is that it's a remarkable churning and change that is happening in those countries. There are new generations in those countries, described variously as Generation Z and so on and so forth, but new generations that haven't been spoken to by the establishments of those countries, and therefore the new generations have said we want a wholesale change, and have brought about that change. It's happened, as you've seen in Nepal, it's happened as you've seen in Bangladesh, it happened, in a sense it happened in Sri Lanka. Now, when people say, could something like that happen in India? Probably not, because India has much more ballast, and India is much larger, and I think the depth of Indian politics is much greater than you would find in those smaller countries. Be that as it may, those smaller countries, the problem has been that the traditional legacy politicians were unable to converse with and communicate with the new generations, and that's why the upheaval happened. Now we have to deal with the new generations afresh. We can't sit back on our laurels, said we did something for your grandmother, etc., therefore you fall in line as well. Not possible. You'll have to start a new conversation, and I think we haven't done enough of that.
We've seen how the Manipur issue had flared up, and we've seen how the ruling party had sort of dealt with it in a way which had left lot for the imagination. What do you think the Manipur issue? What are the sort of effects it has had on our foreign policy, especially with our relationship with Myanmar?
When people look upon India as an effective liberal democracy, having solved many contradictions and conflicts that have emerged because of the nature of our democracy over the years, and people give us credit for this. But then you suddenly come across something like Manipur, and nothing happens for months on end and years on end, and then the interventions that happen are so meaningless interventions. It hurts India's image. Therefore, I would think that is a very serious failure. Sensitive border states, etc., or regions on the border, we have to be that extra careful. You can't just imagine that the way you think one speech made somewhere can shift everything. Similarly, these kind of very deep-seated issues and problems and conflicts can similarly be solved by making a speech somewhere. Obviously not. You have to work much harder.
So, you have also spoken about personalized diplomacy in India taking place right now. And you've said that this has led to, in India, the scenario is that this has led to a lot of awards for the Prime Minister, but we are not sure about the results that it has yielded for us in the diplomatic space. So how do you sort of...
If I wanted to take an extreme example, let's say an extreme example, it would be our relationship with the United States of America. What was our United States of America-India relationship at the peak of Dr. Manmohan Singh's prime ministership, when he pulled off the nuclear deal with the United States, a conservative government at that, and what that sort of predicted to be the path ahead is an important point in our history. And then today what we see is this clear articulation of a very deep friendship between our Prime Minister and the President of the United States, President Trump. But we see no results of that in terms of what is beneficial to India in terms of trade, in terms of access to their markets, in terms of ability and capacity of our young people to find jobs across United States of America. So we see nothing of that kind. Even if we go by the rules of the game of this government, the rules of the game as far as strategic issues are concerned, well, we have nothing to show for strategically when you look at the latest outcome as far as Operation Sindoor is concerned. We have one strategic picture which has been articulated 100 times. But the United States puts a gloss on it which is completely unacceptable. At least it's unacceptable to the opposition in this country and to mass of people. And to say so, even the government refuses and rejects and repudiates what the President of the United States says, but they live with it because the President continues to say it over and over again, and somebody has to tell him, please, this is not acceptable, please stop here. But that doesn't happen. So there are problems, there are big problems in this, or what you've referred to as personalized diplomacy. There are huge problems.
So, I think the book also makes a case for saffronizing of the external affairs space, and especially after 2014. So can you elaborate a bit on that, in the sense that, like you said, this personalized diplomacy has sort of yielded very little ground for India. But in terms of just looking at the diplomatic space, how has saffronization taken over?
Well, I think that there is one word that comes to mind is hypocrisy. And one word that comes to my mind is that there is a sleight of hand. Look at our position vis-a-vis the Arab world, West Asia. Look at our position. One sour point was when a person who was a spokesperson of the BJP said something about the Holy Prophet of Islam, and the immediate reaction that you had from the Islamic countries, and the response that the government gave to keep that person away from public presence for quite some time. But are we dealing with them in a manner which is completely different with what we are doing with the same community here in India? Is there a reason to think differently about Islam when you go abroad, and to think differently about Islam when you're treating a domestic situation? It's a big question. This is a very big question. Now, the point is that if what is being done domestically is part of a personal attribute of the leadership quality here in this country, then you can't just simply stop at the border and say, well, that's left at the border, it won't go beyond. It will go beyond. It may not be apparent. When you're talking commerce, it may not be apparent. It may be convenient for both sides to just stick to commercial matters. But it becomes apparent when you're dealing with a complicated issue like Palestine. It becomes very complicated because we've had a historical important position on Palestine, the two-state solution, the manner in which our top leadership of the independence time saw the aspirations of the Palestinian people and of Gaza and so on. But look at how we've treated it. We, as a formal position, we may say that we stand by what we have done in the past, but there is no sign of that when it comes to intervention. Is there intervention of any kind that could say that India has taken an autonomous position, in spite of the fact that there may be a sense, one side or the other, that they are being let down, but India chose to be autonomous, as it always has been from the time of the NAM movement?
Sir, apart from the saffronization of the diplomatic corps, I think one of the things that the Congress or critics of this government has pointed out is that the diaspora is sort of used politically by this dispensation. I mean, especially the BJP party. So do you think, what is your standpoint on the fact that the BJP goes out into to meet up the diaspora, to canvass for votes, to campaign for votes? What is your stand and the party's stand on it? And do you think that the Congress is lacking in sort of, in terms of trying to, mine that resource?
Yeah, okay, right. I asked myself one question. How would we feel if people from Europe and the United States of America came and campaigned in our elections here? How would we feel? I mean, we go ballistic if there is even the slightest inclination of anybody interfering in internal affairs of India. Absolutely. We go ballistic. And then we go happily into other countries to say, we will decide what kind of politics you should have, we should decide who your leader should be, etc. The Congress party had a very careful affiliation and association with the diaspora. We were always conscious that the diaspora are not temporarily abroad. These are people who've chosen to make new homes. It's important that they have been part of India. It's important for us that they retain their links with India and they keep thinking well of India. Of course, it makes us proud to think that they performed so well, particularly in different sectors of commerce, business, industry, technology and politics, in public life. They've done so well. But it's only it's only at a distance that we can celebrate and say this is great. India has contributed to the world. But we can't make them subservient to our aspirations. We can't possibly. We can have good relations with them, as indeed we have good relations with anybody else, particularly if you have countries that have been traditionally friendly with India. But we can't be expecting them to click their heels and do what India wants, because we've always felt that they can't have dual nationality, and they can't have dual nationality because we don't want them to have dual fidelity. We want them to be faithful to the country they've chosen to be their home now, etc. We wish them well, and we would certainly hope that they wish us well. But that's it. We cannot assimilate them into our affairs and to make them part of our affairs, which the word that you used was to weaponize diaspora for our own political aspirations. We never thought that was the right thing to do, and we never did it.
So key issues like the Trump tariffs and on Palestine, there are key voices within the Congress party that have come and said things. Like, for example, you have been there in writing articles on a lot of things on these issues. And as far as I remember, General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi Vadra has also spoken very, very keenly on the Palestine issue. Do you think that despite all of this, despite these individual voices coming forward, do you think the Congress party needs to have a cohesive foreign policy or sort of stand on certain matters like this, so that it can, when it questions the government, it can have its own stand in front of it?
Yeah, I think that's important. And my experience over the last couple of years has been that people across the globe are thirsting for an Indian point of view that comes from the Congress party. We've had traditional relationships across the globe, but I think we became a little bit insular. We became, it was inward looking after 2014, preoccupied with what was happening one election after election.
So, in the same vein, when the Prime Minister goes abroad, he has a very carefully crafted agenda where he's meeting leaders strategically, or he's reaching out to diaspora in a specific way. But when Rahul Gandhi, he goes abroad, I think, do you feel that there is a need to have a more carefully crafted itinerary for him? Because we see him reach out to several kinds of people, but it's almost always in a university or in an academic setting. Do you think he needs to move beyond that?
Well, I'm sure that he will, but he has a preference as well. He likes to communicate to young people. He likes to speak with scholars and experts in various fields, etc. That's a penchant that he has, which I think people around him who do the planning and programming obviously take into account. But the problem with him is that every time he spends 4 days or 5 days or 6 days abroad, somebody is screaming here from the BJP saying that, look, he's on a holiday. He's not on holidays. He's working. Each minute that he spends abroad, I think what he is doing is something that all top leaders should be doing.
In 2020, when a group of 23 leaders within the Congress party, the G23 leaders within the Congress party had sort of come out and said that they need a change in leadership, they need more cohesive leadership. You're one of the few people who came out and said that you needed Rahul Gandhi to continue in a certain way to ensure the future of this party. Now, we've had 24 elections after that, and things have changed. Where do you think the Congress party stands in terms of what was spoken about in that time, and where do you think it is headed?
Well, I was very unhappy with what my very, very versatile and very successful colleagues did. I didn't see a single name amongst them, and indeed amongst people who've, for a variety of reasons at different points of time, left the party and and gone to greener pastures, etc. That these are people who've all done very well under whatever regime operated in the Congress party. And then at the slightest point of being dissatisfied with not getting some personal acclaim, they've got up and become G23, and they've got up and left the party, etc. I think that was very unfair. No party can claim to say that we are perfect. Nobody is, and I don't believe our leaders would say we are perfect. But given the imperfections of modern life, we are the best that we can be. Certainly for people who've served us and who've been with us for donkey's years. And this is something that should have been understood. This is something that should have been understood. It wasn't understood, unfortunately, and it caused us a great deal of dismay. But be that as it may, we have to move on. I think that there is, Mr. Rahul Gandhi has a perception about fundamental changes to be made in the party, and he's doing it. Fundamental changes in terms of the social groups that we represent, the greater involvement and effective involvement of younger people, of people of different genders, etc. He is trying to tackle problems that will serve us well in the years to come, right? You can't do everything for the present and for now, right? You have to think of tomorrow. And I think therefore we need to give him time. There isn't anybody else who's offering a better model. He has offered this model, and I think we should give the best that we have to make sure that model can succeed.
Thank you for joining us on DH Conversation, sir.
Thank you.
This is Amrita Madhukalya signing out. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share.